Thank you, Alan. I really appreciate that. Thank you all for coming, and I'm looking forward to this. My wife, Patty Holman, and I are gardeners at the Tree of Life garden here at the Jackson Wellsprings. And the moment we heard about the proposed cell tower, we knew that Gerry and Bev were facing an existential crisis, and that the future of the Jackson Wellsprings, as we know and love it today, was on the line. We joined the fight and began researching how we could help. And that's what I'd like to cover this evening. And so I have a few slides. I just wanted to give you an idea of, imagine that tower, 150-foot, 14-story cell tower, 6 feet in diameter, right in the center of this picture, 45 feet from Highway 99. Or look at this perspective. Imagine this tower would have bisected all views of the Cascade Range from anywhere on Highway 99. And finally, the view to the south, and I'm sorry, the northwest. And I'm sure you saw the first slide, that's Gerry and Bev's place there. And this tower would have been literally in their backyard, 363 feet from Gerry's house. Yeah, so we jumped on it, and this is the only slide that has any text on it, so I'm not going to be hitting you with a lot of text, but this is what Patty and I did. When we heard about it, first thing we did was we went to the Jackson County Development Services office and got a hard copy of the entire file. The application, all the appendices, we got a hard copy, and then we carefully reviewed it. And then we returned to the Development Services office on a weekly basis to see if there was any updates, any new developments. We kept an eye on it. We established email communication with Ken Skiles, the Director of Planning, who had sole decision-making authority in this case. And if Ken didn't get back to us in a timely manner, we went to the Development Services office and asked our questions, and they went back and they found Ken, and we got our answers. So don't be dissuaded if you don't get a response to your email. Go there and demand. Don't have to demand. The people at were wonderful. The people at the Jackson County Development Services office couldn't have been nicer. They were fantastic. And another thing to do, make sure that all the appendices enumerated in the application are present and that they're in the original format. For example, there was a document in the file called the Radio Frequency Justification Report. And the document described itself as a color document, but the document on file was black and white. So it was a form of censorship that I wanted to see the color version. So we asked them for it and we got it. Another thing to do is to cross-check that the information in the application matches what is in the appendices. So in this case, the application said, we're putting up a 4G tower. But when you looked at the appendices, you saw that, well, it's going to be a 5G tower. It's going to have what they call the C-band, which is the mid-range of 5G, the 2 gig to 6 gig range. It's just that they soft-pedaled it and said it's going to be a 4G tower, but it was really going to be a 5G tower, straight up. And as we looked at the file, we worked with our team and we said, what do we need to know for an appeal? Let's prepare for the worst case. And Alan led that effort, and we just began looking at the file. What are the weak points in this application? Where can we get leverage in fighting this application? So this might be hard to read. This is the application process. The top 4 or 5 boxes are simply the Director of Development at the Development Services Office gets the application and reviews it for completeness. And when that review is done, you get to the middle part where there's a branch, and we go to the left. That would be the director would call for an evidentiary hearing. There would be a public evidentiary hearing, and then that would inform the decision-making process. But Mr. Skiles chose to go to the path on the right, where he just said, "I'll let you know what I decide." And that decision was due on April 8th, so we didn't know when he was going to make that decision. So Alan, we got right on it. We made our appeal. We were ready to file an appeal from early January, mid-January. We were ready to file that appeal. And then if you go through the appeal process, if you still lose, you go at the bottom. You go to the Land Use Board of Appeals at the state of Oregon. That's the end of the line there. One of the things we noticed in the application was a notification memo, and we saw that the city of Ashland and the Oregon DOT had been notified. And this is something that Gerry was very sensitive to. He said it's going to be very dangerous to have a driveway of a Highway 99 driving down into the site. That's what they were going to do. They were going to have put a driveway from the 45 feet down to the site. And Gerry contacted Oregon Department of Transportation, said this is not a good idea. And lo and behold, we got, shortly thereafter, we got a memo from Michael Horowitz, and I'm not expecting to read it, but these are the receipts. We got a letter from ODOT saying, we deny the applicant permission to create a driveway on Highway 99 to get down to the site. So it's an example of looking at the application, what are the weak points in the application, how can we attack this? And this was a successful path. And so that would force the landowner to put a driveway on his property. So the landowner owns both sides of Jackson Road. You might have noticed that Jackson Road is now closed to traffic. You can't drive on Jackson Road anymore. It's at the railroad trestle on Highway 99 where Jackson Road goes off to the north. You can't go through there anymore. It's blocked off. So the Oregon Department of Transportation told the owner, if you want to get to your site, you're going to put a driveway on your property. You're not putting a driveway on Highway 99. So that was really a great initiative on Gerry, and was very successful in getting that. The other thing we noticed was that Jackson County asked the city of Ashland for feedback, and they said, we have an MOU, a memorandum of understanding that establishes an area of mutual concern and planning. On our border, we consider that an area of mutual concern and planning. When we have issues that affect the border, we want to talk. And Jackson County asked Ashland for feedback on this tower. And we looked in the file, and we didn't see any feedback. It was after the deadline for feedback. There was nothing in the file. So I went to 4 City of Ashland council meetings and spoke 4 times. I said, please, this is a big deal. This is going to be a scar on the land. If they put this tower there, it's going to be a scar on the land, and it's at the gateway of Jackson and of Ashland, pardon me. And so I repeatedly asked them. I went to 3 Board of Commissioner meetings at the Jackson County Board of Commissioners, and I said, you haven't heard back from Ashland yet. You can't proceed with this until you hear back from Ashland. And I contacted the Ethics Commission in the state, and I said, is it okay for councilors and commissioners to lobby their own department heads or each other or the public about any project? And there's no prohibition whatsoever, as long as that person doesn't have a financial interest. So if these politicians allow something crazy like this to happen, like a tower in Gerry's backyard right on Highway 99, we just say, we're going to hold you accountable. You should have spoken up. And in Jackson County, they can change the land development ordinance. They could actually change the ordinance and say, we want to have a decision-making role. So the fact that the ordinance doesn't give them a decision-making role now doesn't preclude that in the future it's something that could be changed. So lo and behold, on February 6th, Brandon Goldman, the interim director of planning for the city of Ashland, did respond to the Jackson County, pardon me. And I won't read the whole thing here, but he called out the fact that the area of mutual understanding called for special consideration to the scenic quality of this area. And he pointed out in this highlighted area that there was very unlikely that putting a tower in an open field 45 feet from Highway 99, 150 foot tall, 14 stories, 6 feet in diameter, he said, you're not going to get, this isn't going to be appealing no matter what you do. That's basically, so we got on the record, the city of Ashland said, we don't like this. And that was valuable for our appeal, so we had that in our back pocket. And another thing we saw in the file was a document from the AT&T engineers. They called it the search ring information. And there's a list, I don't expect you to read it, there's a list of 7 properties and the GPS points for those properties. And they used those 7 properties to make a perimeter, and they said, we're looking for a property in that perimeter to put this tower. So I took those 7 points and I put them on the Jackson County GIS system, and I plotted those 7 points, and that's the black shape that you see. Those are the 7 points. The red polygon is what the AT&T engineers drew around these 7 points. And up on the left, you see that green circle with the pin in it? That's the site they chose. So they actually chose a site that was outside the search ring, but they're the engineers. Hey, the AT&T engineers said, hey, that's a search ring. So it gives them a certain level of credibility, and I know that Gerry was talking about hiring getting a second opinion, and this is an example of us trying to prep for the appeal. And getting a second opinion, we could say, listen, is this legitimate that they chose a site outside of their search ring? So that was something that we got. And the This next picture is the color version of the radio frequency justification report. And the dark green area is the area of current coverage that AT&T has. The yellowish, light yellow-green area is the area of new coverage that would have been realized if they had put the tower in. The gray area in the white with the white circle on it is the remaining coverage gap that would have been on the northwest side of Ashland. The red star is the site in the top left corner of that polygon. That's the site right across from Gerry's backyard. The diamond, the triangle I put in the middle is the high ground on that Billings Ranch property. They chose to put that tower on the lowest elevation site on that parcel, as far away from the owner's property. The owner's got a homestead at Jackson Road in Billings and Highway 99. He said, I don't want it in my backyard, I'm going to put it in Gerry's backyard. How about that? Right? That's what they did, essentially. And so, but the fact that they put it at the bottom of the hill, 77 feet down below the high point, made them that's why they had to make it 150 feet tall. And even at that height, they can't get coverage over that hill into the quiet village in the northwest side of Ashland. There was still a little bit of gap. You know what that means? AT&T would have come right back and said, we need another tower. And in fact, as Cynthia knows, they're looking at a tower in SOU campus on Walker Street right across from her house. And so this is something we're paying attention to. Anyways, another thing we noticed in the application was just a discrepancy between the language in the application. It said we're creating a 4G tower. That's the top paragraph. We're putting up a 4G tower. But when you look at the appendices, you could see that this was a 5G C-band capability. The tower was literally going to be a 5G tower, but they were soft pedaling it by saying it was a 4G tower. So that showed, that's the value of looking at the application carefully. You can find out what they're trying to hide. Excuse me. And as Gerry mentioned, on the 21st of February, the application was withdrawn. We don't know why. The site developer said AT&T called them and said, just pull it. So we don't know why. And I do want to mention that Ken Skiles, the director of planning, told me, he said, we did not have to notify anybody of this completed application. We have to notify you of the decision, but we don't have to notify you of a complete application. But he said, we did it this time. And they may have a habit of doing that, but they don't have to. There's no law, there's nothing in the land development ordinance. They could have gone to that decision on April 8th, and Gerry, everybody would be sitting here with a decision in their hands instead of fighting an application. So what the implications of that are is we have to exercise due diligence, pay attention to what's going on in Ashland and in Jackson County. This is a photo from, this is Ashland, excuse me, the city of Ashland has a website where they show permits and applications that have been pulled. And that website is, I have a little 4-inch sheet on the table over there with a whole bunch of websites. All the websites Alan's going to mention, all the valuable websites you want around. A little handout there you can grab. And so there's some little blue flags there, you might not be able to see them, but you click on the flag and you can see what is the permit, what are they trying to do here. And as I mentioned, we're watching SOU, Cynthia. We're watching for them to pull that permit. They have until December to pull it, so we're going to see what happens there. And then Jackson County also has a site called Acela, where you can just search on the date range and you can see all the applications that have been pulled in that date range and see if any of them are cell tower related. And again, that link is on that sheet. So it's up to us to pay attention to these developments. We know that people depend on cellular communication, but we don't have to put a tower in people's backyards on Highway 99. We can put these towers away from people where the radiation will be less dangerous and people can still get their coverage. We can't give the telecommunications, Verizon, AT&T and T-Mobile, we can't give them carte blanche to put as many towers as they want wherever they want. We cannot let them get away with that. We have to call them out. We have to get our elected politicians to call out hold them accountable. Then we need to get them to speak up if these telecommunications companies are doing something stupid, and call them out. But so that's it for my talk, and I would like to introduce the next speaker.